number one safety in the country. What was it about Alabama?
LSU Tigers, number one. Go Tigers.
In the next 4 years, I'm going to Denver University.
Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977. Now, here's D Squared.
Welcome, everyone, to this latest edition of the Blitz Sports Radio. This is the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. I'm Drew DeArmond. It's the second signing date. Anticlimactic, really, except for maybe Deuce Robinson and Nicholas Harbor. And Deuce Robinson, the tight end from Arizona, probably not even going to sign today, the five-star. We'll see if Harbor does and where he ends up. But, really most of, 99% of the hay is in the barn. This February signing day used to be when everybody took the day off. I certainly did. Tried to go watch the wall-to-wall coverage of signing day, whether it be at my home or at a restaurant with others, tracking recruiting. It was always one of the most fun days of the year. But since they've changed it to the early December signing period, that's really become your national signing day, where all your pomp and circumstance and coverage is. I mean, come on, that's just how it works, and again, it's one of those things where it's the way the recruiting landscape has changed with the transfer portal, with NIL. It's just a completely different deal. Now, there's even more coverage than there ever was, even back, 30 plus years ago when I got involved in it. So much of it, when I first started following it avidly, was waiting for the Jeff Whitaker magazine to come out, waiting for your Forrest Davis magazine that you could keep throughout the cycle. Then there was the first television show on, Fox Sports South, basically, which was Countdown to Signing Day with Forrest Davis, with Jamie Newberg and those guys. That was some of your first television coverage of recruiting. But most of the time you would wait for your local newspaper to come out to see who committed where, or watch your local newscast, like good friend Harold Bugg. And I appear on his show weekly with my good friend Brett Beard as his co-host on the Boomo Bug Show. They would tell you of course, we had one of the pioneers on our sister station on Talking Ball this morning, the great Freddie Kirby, who is now with Southeastern Athletics out of Russellville. He, of course, was with Barry Holland, and they had Pigskin Preps, who was another one of the pioneering recruiting services. And so Freddie's been doing it for, 38 plus years, tracking it. It's so different now, and I feel bad for some local kids who I think are absolutely collegiate athletes that have to wait so long to get scholarship offers or interest from schools because of the transfer portal, because so many kids are moving from one Division I school to another, or moving down from FBS to FCS, or even FCS to Division II or NAIA. So, and then you also have the junior college kids. Sometimes the high school athlete, especially the late bloomer, is kind of being pushed aside, and so you hate to see that. But there have been some young men in our community today that are signing with schools and have committed. Carmelo Montgomery, we mentioned him at the end of 97.7 The Zone's Talking Ball with Scott Tyson, myself. He's a big wide receiver, 6'4", had a really good year for Coach LaRon White and the Sparkman Senators. He is committed to Alabama A&M and staying home and playing in the SWAC for his home school out there on the Hill. Congratulations to Carmelo, no doubt about that. And then Christian Graham, another young man who had a big year as a wide receiver for the Grissom Tigers. He is going to also sign with Alabama A&M. So Alabama A&M being smart, getting some young men that are perhaps late bloomers and are in their backyard to stay home and play for the Bulldogs. So those two young guys, congrats to Carson Crean. As you know, our sister station, 97.7 The Zone, is the home for Madison Academy football, has been for many years. We have a great relationship with head coach Bob Godsey, Hall of Famer, won a state championship in 2011 with the Hartselle Tigers. Before that, did a great job in Killen at Brooks High School, and now is reestablishing Madison Academy as a powerhouse, reaching the state semifinals last year, this past season, doing an outstanding job, getting them back to the playoffs, winning another region championship. So Madison Academy is a strong program, no doubt about it, and is going to continue to be strong. They'll have guys like A.J. Rice coming up, who are going to be a big-time football player. A guy to watch, too, Jackson Reese, a late bloomer in football, really. Didn't start playing high school football or football, period, until he got to high school, played his freshman year, concentrated on track as a sophomore, then full-time football now, and was really an all-area, all-region performer for the Madison Academy Mustangs. So he's got a chance to make a name for himself next year, so excited about that. And, of course, hopefully you'll hear his football games on 97.7 The Zone, as we hope to continue to be partners with Madison Academy. And I was honored this year, really probably my most fun year in broadcasting, Austin Coletti and I brought you Randolph football on 97.7 The Zone. You've heard David Lloyd on this show, who's an outstanding football coach as well, who joined us weekly on Talking Ball, but also has joined us on the Recruiting Blitz to talk about his program, his team. They have a very good coaching staff there, and led by David Lloyd, and such an outstanding group of coaches there. They did a great job, had their best team in school history. And really, it's a program that really didn't come back into existence until 2010. Already now, though, establishing themselves as a force. And Andrew Hunter was named the AL.com Madison County, North Alabama Player of the Year. Of course, accounted for over 50 touchdowns, passing and rushing. Had just an amazing career at Randolph. He is not signing today, but certainly still visiting schools and starting to gather some offers. I think somebody's going to get a great player, a very smart young man, unbelievable academics, but also great athleticism, great player. And I think once he gets into a college weight program, could really blossom. He was as good a high school quarterback as I had the privilege to watch this year. Certainly, we congratulate him. And again, one of the great games we had a chance to broadcast was that 46-33 win, first time ever over Madison Academy in their school's history. And you saw two really good quarterbacks on that day battle each other, Andrew Hunter and also Carson Crean. Carson Crean going to go to UNA. Congratulations to that young man who had an outstanding senior season. So another young man getting a chance to ply his wares on the college level. But I think Andrew Hunter is every bit as good or better than that young man, Carson Crean, who's an outstanding player. They're both outstanding players. We're glad to see Carson getting an opportunity to go to UNA. Hopefully Andrew Hunter will get a chance to play on the college level as well. And, of course, Nick Strong, the Offensive Player of the Year in our area. He was able to win, I think, the Player of the Week more than anyone in North Alabama this year. 41 touchdowns, just an unbelievable season. 1,300-plus yards receiving, nearly 900 rushing. What a player. He's committed to UNA as well. He will not sign today, but congratulations to that young man for deciding to continue his football career at UNA. So UNA signing a lot of local kids as well. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to Alabama A&M. But Nick Strong and Andrew Hunter, what a combination. And, of course, they were complimented by who I nicknamed these guys the Four Horsemen because of their impact on Randolph football and their careers. But we also wanted to give a shout-out to Grayson Davenport, who had over 90 catches and, was one of the top 3 or 4 receivers production-wise in the state of Alabama. Also as good a two-way player as we saw Connor Goodson, who played, of course, some flex tight end and safety and had over 100 tackles, 5 interceptions. I believe he's the all-time leader in interceptions in Randolph football history. Those 4 young men, Andrew Hunter, certainly, Nick Strong, Connor Goodson, and Grayson Davenport. You hope all 4 of them get a chance to play college football so they so choose. They had such a great impact with their leadership and their ability with Randolph football, and it was just an honor for Austin Coletti and I to call their games. They, of course, lost to the eventual state finalist, Cherokee County, in the state quarterfinals over at Randolph, but it was such a great season to watch those guys climb and watch them put up such great numbers in production. And of course, as we said, Madison Academy had another strong year under Coach Bob Godsey as well. Just two really, really good programs, no doubt about it. And Madison Academy going to be strong again next year. We firmly believe David Lloyd is going to keep that Randolph program very, very competitive. But those two programs had special seasons, and we wanted to give them a shout out as well and congratulate them for what they're doing. And Huntsville High, I know, is going to have several guys signed today, a handful, led by Seth Lawson, their 3-year starter at left tackle. I believe he's signing with West Alabama. So congratulations to that young man. So there are going to be, several guys, move on to play college football from Huntsville as well. So there's just a lot of young men. We're probably going to leave someone off. We certainly don't do that intentionally. We know there's a lot of great players around our community that are getting a chance to move on. We wanted to highlight some of those and give them a shout out today since this is National Signing Day, no doubt about it, and wanted to give them the credit they deserve for getting a chance to apply their wares and sign on the dotted line and continue their educations and their football journeys after playing for the city schools here. And so we're really excited about that. And we'll continue to keep you updated, and we'll continue. And also some big recruiting news basketball-wise. LeBaron Philon, who, as we said, I think he's the best player in the state of Alabama. He's just a junior, but regardless of classification, he's the best. He came to the Huntsville City Classic, averaged over 30. He's averaged nearly 40 overall for the season. He got his Baker Hornets under Coach David Armstrong to the championship game of the Huntsville City Classic, where they lost to a very gritty, and talented and experienced Sparkman Senators team led by 10 seniors. And Sparkman repeated as Huntsville City Classic champions. And but LeBaron was unbelievable in the tournament. He is going to announce his commitment at a pep rally on Friday over at Baker High School. We'll see. He certainly announced recently a top 6 of schools overall. I'm a little bit surprised, that he's committing this early, but I think, he's decided, and he said yesterday to some media that that he was going to go ahead and make an early decision and go ahead and commit to a school of his choice. And as we know, the top 6, it was a lot of Southeastern Conference schools. There was one blue blood, as you would call it, the Kansas Jayhawks. Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Arkansas were the other finalists. I think Auburn has the edge right now, no question about it. I was told at the Huntsville City Classic that Alabama, Auburn, and Kansas were the top 3, even though he had a top 6. And I think Auburn is in the strongest position, and I say that because when you kind of follow the coaches that came to the Huntsville City Classic, the one that was there the most that you saw, and he does a great job recruiting and coaching for Bruce Pearl, was former Auburn point guard Wesley Flanagan. Of course, his son Allen is a really good player for Auburn and a starter who's overcome some injuries the last 2 years to become a really good player for the Tigers yet again, a guy that they're counting on to get them back to the NCAA tournament. And so I think Auburn has positioned themselves the strongest with LeBaron Philon. So we'll see if he goes ahead and that's who he commits to on Friday at this pep rally. But I think Auburn is probably in the strongest position right now. It'd be a huge get for Bruce Pearl, who he hasn't had a lot of success in state. He's really had a pipeline to Atlanta, getting the great Jabari Smith, who was probably the best freshman in all of college basketball last year. He's also had the Bryce Browns. He's had, of course, the pipeline into Atlanta that's continued to rock and roll from Pebblebrook as well. So they've just done a great job recruiting Atlanta. They've already got a commitment from a 7-foot prospect out of Kell High School there. So Bruce Pearl, I think a lot of people have said he's been kind of laying the foundation for a monster class in 2024. And certainly if you get an early commitment from a player of the caliber of LeBaron Philon, who I think has a great chance to be a McDonald's All-American, then I think that would be a huge start for Auburn and a huge second piece no doubt about that. If they could get LeBaron Philon, no question about that. So we'll see. But again, I think that Auburn is in the strongest position to get his commitment, but that's going to be in a couple of days. And so he just announced it last night after, unfortunately the Baker Hornets lost a very close game and got swept. And that's unusual to say because Baker's had a great year, certainly ranked in the top 3 in the state in the 7A rankings, and also in your overall AL.com Power 10, the Baker Hornets. But they got swept by Blunt High School. They led by 17 actually, but weren't able to hold on and lost a very tight game last night. But afterwards, there was some media who's in town for the Senior Bowl, who was there covering LeBaron Philon's game, and he announced that he was going to go ahead and choose his school, choose it early. Of course, he won't sign until next November, this coming November, several months down the road, but he has decided to end the process early. And, going into December and after the Huntsville City Classic, I felt like Auburn probably had the edge, and I still feel that way. And I think LeBaron Philon is going to make a lot of Auburn fans very happy as he is going to choose Bruce Pearl's Tigers on Friday, and really get some momentum going for them. Nate Oates' team played exceptional basketball last night. They're the best team in the Southeastern Conference, in my opinion. Tennessee a close second. Alabama bouncing back from that disappointing 93-69 road loss at Oklahoma to eviscerate the Vanderbilt Commodores 101-44, the largest margin of victory in Alabama basketball history in their 101-year history. They win by 57 points in Coleman Coliseum last night, led by the incomparable Brandon Miller. 22 points for him, 6 3-pointers. He was, of course, Namari Burnett had his best game since coming back from his wrist surgery and injury. He had 16, and Alabama shot 19 of 21 from 3. So congratulations to Alabama for that big win. The Auburn Tigers tonight will be looking to bounce back. They've hit a little bit of a rough patch. They are going to host the Georgia Bulldogs. They lost in Stegman Coliseum just a few weeks ago, but Auburn is a 12-point favorite going into tonight at Neville Arena. And as everyone knows, I know they recently lost to Texas A&M in Neville Arena, but they don't lose much at home. They had a 28-game winning streak snapped, which was the longest in college basketball. So they're looking to start anew, and they're looking to get a big win. And certainly Auburn looking to still stay in that SEC championship race, even though they've got a rough part of their schedule coming up after this home date against Mike White's Georgia Bulldogs. Auburn is going to travel to Tennessee on Saturday and then to Texas A&M for that rematch. So a couple of tough games for Auburn coming up. And then Alabama, a week from Saturday, will be coming to Neville Arena. And Alabama, if they take care of business, they have LSU on the road Saturday, and then a home date against the Gators. They could come into Auburn 11-0 in the conference. So that would be a raucous environment. You certainly know it will be a sellout crowd. You certainly know with the rivalry being as big as it is in state in every sport, but especially when you talk about football and basketball, that it will be off the wall. And Alabama took it on the chin in Neville Arena, got blown out there last year. So certainly Bruce Pearl's Tigers would be ready to go in that game. And so we'll see what Auburn does going forward, but they could definitely get some big news on Friday with LeBaron Philon of Baker High School. And so we will see. But again, Bruce Pearl's Tigers right now looking to add one of the best players in the country. Also, in just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by our good friend Matt Ray, who has got a new role. He is no longer with Sports Illustrated in Vol Country. He is with Vol Quest, which is a long-time fixture. When you talk about Brent Hubbs and those guys, they were with the Rivals Network. Now they're with On3. Now Matt Ray is the leading recruiting expert for them, and why shouldn't he be? There's not a more hard-working person when it comes to covering Tennessee football, Tennessee basketball recruiting. He does a lot of lead work, a lot of road work, does an outstanding job for them. So congratulations to he and his family on his move to on3sports.com. It'll be our first time speaking with him since he made said move, and so we're very happy for him and his career. He's certainly one of the fastest risers and one of the classiest gentlemen you will ever meet as well. Such a great person and a great person to speak with, and We're going to talk. I know it's basically anticlimactic, but we're going to talk a little bit of Tennessee post Orange Bowl win, because they got a big win, as we know, over the Clemson Tigers to cap an 11-2 year. It was really one of the biggest stories in college football with the way they turned it around under Josh Heupel. As Josh Heupel has done remarkable work in just 2 years in Knoxville. The recruiting has been very well. They're bringing in Nico Iamaleava, one of the top quarterbacks in the country, because Hendon Hooker, who was one of my favorite players this year, a guy that I still think it's just an absolute travesty that he got hurt late the way he did, and that he wasn't a part of the Heisman Trophy finalists, because I thought he and Bryce Young were honestly the two best quarterbacks in all of college football. He's healing from an ACL tear. Hopefully, I heard Matt Moscona, who I respect so much, talk about him potentially being a late first-round pick of the New Orleans Saints. That would be amazing, because I think Hendon Hooker is the best ball quarterback I've seen since the great Peyton Manning. So certainly he's a great talent. But we're going to talk some Tennessee Vols with our next guest, Matt Ray. Stay with us here on the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared, but before we go, don't forget, download our app, of course, at the Google Store, at the Apple Store, to listen to this show from 9 to 10 a.m., our Blitz Sports Radio app, the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared from 9 to 10 a.m. Don't forget, later today from 2 to 4, it'll be the Bandyman Bailey Lowry and Captain Cool John Abraham. They will join you and give you some quality sports talk. And don't forget, if you haven't, to download the 97.7 The Zone app. I know many of you have. We certainly appreciated our sister station, because, again, we're really the hub of local sports coverage in our area. And, again, it's just a very exciting time to follow recruiting, to follow the local sports scene. And, of course, with 97.7 The Zone, we bring you Alabama athletics, especially football and basketball, throughout their journeys. And then we also bring you UAH basketball, and UAH will be at home twice this week. On Thursday, they will play Delta State, and then on Saturday, a rematch with Mississippi College. But we're going to go on a break. When we come back, Matt Ray going to talk some balls with us. Stay with us here on this Wednesday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared.
This is Wes Neighbors with Philip with Eagle Insulation, and we have an announcement to make.
Yes, Wes, we are now Eagle Masonry and Insulation. Still a place to call for your installation needs, but now we offer masonry services.
What kind of masonry projects can you handle?
Wes, no job is too big, no job is too small. We can do renovations, new construction, outdoor fireplaces, fire pits, brick landscape borders.
Well, when you came out to my house, you did both the insulation and masonry at the same time. You guys did rock for me, you did brick for me, and you insulated my house. That's usually done at the same time that you're building a house.
Absolutely. It really capitalizes on two services you need at the same time, and you can get one company to handle both of those.
Philip with Eagle Insulation will come out, do your installation. He'll do your masonry. They do a great job. They guarantee your work. Check out more online at insulatedwitheagle.com and schedule your free examination today. 256-755-1556.
Thanks, Wes.
You want the right specialist for your recovery. At SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center, we understand every body is different. Your muscles and bones are unique, as is your body. Our SportsMed specialists offer innovative treatments and minimally invasive procedures, allowing you to quickly return to the life you love. Locations in Huntsville, Madison, Athens, and Decatur, and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com. Improving performance, improving lives.
In 1982, Bob Baumhauer introduced Alabama to the Buffalo Wild Wing, and quite frankly, we've never been the same. Back then, it was Wings and Things in Tuscaloosa, but now, 40 years later, after 4 name changes, Baumhauer's Victory Grill is the #1 sports-themed restaurant in the state. Bob's Alabama Hot Chicken is something that has to be tried to believe, plus the new Bam Bam Chicken and the Louisiana-style Go Fish, a whitefish over rice topped with shrimp etouffee. And Baumhauer's is fighting inflation with some new affordable favorites. Visit Baumhauer's on the South Parkway today. Tom Abraham here for my friend Brian Hamaker and his team at North Alabama Mortgage. Look, buying a home is the biggest purchase you will make in your life, and it can be a bit intimidating, so you want people that can help walk you through the mortgage process and get you the best deal possible. That's what North Alabama Mortgage does, and they do it in Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, from first-time purchases to refis, conventional, VA, FHA, and USDA loans. They have the solution at North Alabama Mortgage. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more. That's NorthAlabamaMortgage.com.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Rambo Marine in Hazel Green is your one-stop shop for all things boating. Whether you are ready to surf with the newest Malibu wake boat or cruise in a Cobalt or Barletta pontoon, we have a boat ready for you and your family. Rambo Marine provides exceptional service second to none, so that you are ready to hit the water in no time. Stop by Rambo Marine today. We know boats.
Welcome back to the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. I'm Trudy Armand as we are talking recruiting with you. We've been talking a lot of high school football in the first segment, some basketball as well, as we told you, the great LeBaron Philon, one of the best players in state history. At least I think that's how it's going to go down. He is going to make his decision known on Friday. We strongly believe the Auburn Tigers are in the driver's seat for him, so that'll be a big get for Bruce Pearl. But speaking of recruiting, speaking of schools that are doing really, really well, and we're talking about on the gridiron and on the basketball court, certainly we detailed what Josh Heupel has done in year two, going 11-2, winning the Orange Bowl, becoming a team that was really one win away from the college football playoff. Let's not misunderstand something. You know, if they beat South Carolina and finished the regular season with one loss only to eventual national champion Georgia, they would have been in the tournament, no question about it. And Rick Barnes' men's program is playing at a very high level. They are among the top two teams in the SEC right now. Alabama followed closely behind the Tennessee Volunteers. And we're going to talk Tennessee Volunteers with our next guest. He is now the lead recruiting analyst and expert for VolQuest, part of On3Sports.com. He has just made this move. We congratulate him. And we are always honored to speak with him on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, and that is Matt Ray. Matt, welcome back to the show. How are you, sir?
Sir, I'm good. How you doing?
We're doing well, man. Congrats on the move. I know On3 is exploding, and certainly I know it was a difficult decision for you. You put in a lot of work and time with Vol Country, but congratulations on the move. Brent Hubbs and those guys have been around a long time. VolQuest is one of the most well-known avenues when it comes to Tennessee, and so congrats on your move, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was a hard move, just in the fact of letting what I had worked and built with the guys around me, go to make that move for to try to continue to advance personally. But like you said, Brent and Austin and those guys, I think, are the gold standard inside the Tennessee market. So it was, even though it was tough for a little while, it was a no-brainer at the end of the day.
Yeah, it really was. And we know today is kind of anticlimactic. For me, it's kind of melancholy and sad, because I've been tracking, following, covering, whatever you want to call it, recruiting since I was a high school kid. You can ask people that went to high school with me in the early 90s. I was the kid with the recruiting magazines in my binders, reading them all the time, reading the newspaper, following it. It was tougher to follow back then because there's not guys like yourself. There's not the complete blanket coverage we get in recruiting all the time, and, of course, the Twitters and the Facebooks and the social media aspect. But it's just become so much different to cover. But it's weird kind of having a lot of the hay in the barn in late December now, and really February has become anticlimactic in many ways.
Yeah, it really has. For Tennessee and a few other programs really across the country, a lot of hay in the barn by really the first week of the season.
Yeah.
Tennessee especially this time around, they still chased and landed a few major targets. They got the running back they wanted in Khalifa Keith there for Parker in Alabama. But then really, outside of that, the only real pursuit was with David Hobbs and Arion Carter, and trying to see if you could gain some traction back with, a few candidates that you want to try to flip. But for Tennessee, it was a slow end to the recruiting cycle other than those two guys. And, going into February, Tennessee not expected to sign a scholarship guy today. And, it's a weird feeling, Drew, because this day for so many years had so much importance. And now, it doesn't seem. There are a handful of, top guys that are still going to, maybe make a decision today and announce. But, other than that, there's just not a lot going on in this February signing period.
Well, and for us, though, we do want to emphasize again, though, it was a huge boon. I know you told us throughout the process that most of the hay was in the barn for Tennessee by early in the season, before the Vols began their ascension back up the college football ladder. But I think that ascension, though, the 11 wins they put on the table, that was huge in snagging a couple of guys like a David Hobbs along the defensive line and an Arion Carter, who probably you could argue had as good a rise up the charts as a senior as anyone in college football. And if you follow the landscape of recruiting, getting those two young men.
Yeah, absolutely. It was huge for Tennessee with those guys. With Hobbs, they had, evaluated and then offered a little later, and then by that point, everyone was kind of in the mix for him, Georgia and Alabama especially. What they were able to do with David Hobbs, getting him to campus for the Florida game and then for the Alabama game, those two game day atmospheres really helped carry Tennessee in that recruitment and, allowed them to finish and hold off, the two of the best recruiting programs in the country in Alabama and Georgia. Ohio State tried to get involved there late as well. And then, same thing with Carter. It was, if you don't have that 11-2 season, I don't think you overcome, Alabama in that one. Tennessee had some connections and was able to do some good things in that recruitment, but, you caught his attention with that season and the strides they were kind of able to show defensively and point to a direction of where they're headed at that inside linebacker position. Because Arion Carter, early on in that one, had his eyes set on Alabama.
He really did. And it looked like Alabama was going to sign him for much of the process, but Josh Heupel and Tennessee were dogged in their pursuit, and they ended up getting him and David Hobbs, which I think were two huge gets for Tennessee. There's no doubt about that. And then you just mentioned Khalifa Keith. He was another one that was committed to Kentucky that they flipped. They wanted a second running back in the class. They got Vyson Lang as well. Now they did lose the safety, Sylvester Smith, to Auburn late. But still, when Tennessee's been good, they've been able to recruit the states of Georgia well, and they've gone into Alabama and gotten players. And the one thing that I have noticed, we've also saw Squirrel White have a strong Orange Bowl. Since Josh Heupel got there in the 2 years, they have not been afraid to go into Alabama and recruit.
No, Tennessee's continued to go into Alabama and recruit, and that's a trend that's only going to continue in 2024, 2025. Tennessee working, to at least have conversation with Perry Thompson, the 2024 Alabama commit. They've got a little bit of attention from Alvin Henderson, who's probably the top running back in the 2025 class when it's all said and done. So Tennessee, they're going to continue to recruit the state of Alabama hard. And, when you look around the Southeast, Florida and Georgia get a lot of attention, and deservedly so, but Alabama is still a pound for pound a talent-rich state where you can find some really good ball players, and Josh Heupel in Tennessee wasting no time in going in there and trying to make some inroads. It's only going to get harder with Hugh Freeze at Auburn coming in and Nick Saban revamping his staff, but you have to be able to go into Alabama and get some of the guys you want if you're Tennessee.
No question about it, and I know that we've now had the All-Star games and the things of that nature. I know that was stuff that you were tracking for the Vols. Was there anyone that maybe caught your eye that, of course, signed with Tennessee that may have impressed? I mean, now I'll be the first to tell you, I've learned my lesson with the 7-on-7s and the Under Armour camps and even some of these all-star games, because they can be skewed in the way you're looking at things. And I know they now play them. It used to be that some of these all-star games weren't played until guys were had not been playing football for 2 or 3 months, which was another hard way to track stuff, because again, now they play them pretty much right after their senior season's end. But again, did anyone catch your eye from a Vol perspective in either the All-American game or the Under Armour game?
David Hobbs went out to the All-American game in San Antonio, and he had a good week of practice out there. And I think you got a chance to see with him where his upside is. He's a guy that is immensely athletic, but he's admittedly, and he will tell you that he's admittedly raw in his craft. He was playing tight end in high school, so going back and forth, hasn't had, just an immense amount of development. And that was another factor that played into his recruitment. He felt like his athleticism paired with the fact that he was raw, to be developed by Rodney Garner could pay dividends for him. So, he's a guy that I think continued to impress, with just his natural athleticism and length. But outside of that, Tennessee had several All-Americans, but most of those guys didn't end up playing in the game because they early enrolled and got there for bowl practices. One guy that didn't play in an All-American game, but that caught the attention, of many during the bowl week was Nathan Laycock. He continued to be a steady riser up the recruiting rankings, and he's already turning some heads in Knoxville. So that's a guy that didn't get that invite, but he has impressed already in the short time that he's been at Tennessee.
No question about it. And then when you look at it too, from a Tennessee perspective, how many of these young men did early enroll overall and are already on campus for the Vols?
I want to say there were 14 that made it in for practice, for the bowl practice. I want to say 17 or 18 overall. Don't hold me to that number, Drew. It was in that range.
Yeah, I knew it was the majority of the class had early enrolled, and as you said, that's going to hurt these all-star games too, because a lot of these kids are going to go ahead and early enroll. They're not going to worry about playing in them because they want to go ahead and get their journey and process started. That's why it's so anticlimactic in February, because so many of these kids have signed and now early enrolled. But also, Tennessee, before year one with Josh Heupel, they were very active in the transfer portal, and they had to be, because the roster was in such poor shape when Jeremy Pruitt left. Now, last year, going into year two, they weren't as active in adding guys. They've seemed to be a little more active going into year three. What has been your impression of some of the guys like a John Campbell, who they added from Miami because of the losses of people like Daniel Wright at the offensive tackle spot?
Yeah, Tennessee had to add someone like John Campbell this time around. I mean, that's going to be the focal point of the spring, is seeing how that tackle rotation works out. Tennessee, when Glenn Ellerby and Josh Heupel first got there, one of the first offers, if not the first offer they extended, was to Jeremiah Crawford, but he was coming out of JUCO at the time, and no one was very sure of him. That was coming out of that COVID time frame where JUCO played into the summer, so he got there, and in year one wasn't really able to be a factor, but he found his way into the tackle rotation last fall. They added Gerald Mincy from the transfer portal ahead of the 2022 season, and both of those guys played a role. So you have both of those guys back, but you needed another veteran, experienced tackle body, and John Campbell provided that for them. And then defensively for Tennessee, they were able to go out and identify some veteran pieces that can fill in and have a chance to start and play a key role in rotational minutes at positions of need with Keenan Peely, the BYU linebacker, Gabe Judy-Lawley, the BYU cornerback. So to go out and get those guys, veteran presence, were big for Tennessee. And then, for me, I think the biggest pull in the in the transfer cycle for Tennessee was Dante Thornton, the Oregon wide receiver commit. When you look at what he's put on paper, the stats don't pop right away, but when you look at the potential inside of Tennessee's offense for a guy like him, given his measurables in that 6'4", 6'5" range, around 200 pounds, and can flat out run, you have to think that he's a guy that Tennessee's going to be able to facilitate the ball to this fall. And they needed another receiver body that they could rely on. They lost some guys through the portal this time around. They lost Jimmy Holiday. They lost Jimmy Callaway. They lost Walker Merrill. That's three guys that could do some combination things for you. But mainly, you're going to see those guys in the slot. So you were really running kind of low there with just a Squirrel White in the slot. So Dante Thornton is a guy that can kick inside, outside, and do a couple, a multitude of things for you as you continue to bring along your younger wide receivers.
Yeah, you really can. And the thing about it is, with their development of Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman the last 2 years, that's one thing the staff has shown is they can take guys who we saw Tillman had next to no production before this staff arrived, and he was a monster, as a junior, then as a sophomore, and then last year as a junior got injured. But still, we've seen what he can do. And then we saw what Jalen Hyatt did. He went from a guy, in the first year under the staff that was still trying to get his feet under him. He lost some confidence, dropped the ball, but as he spent more time in the system, and then as he developed last year, became the Bolitnikoff Award winner. So this staff has shown an ability to develop wide receivers, and I'm sure that was part of the attraction for Dante Thornton leaving Oregon to come to Tennessee.
Yeah, it definitely was, and that's a guy that, from the jump for him inside of the transfer portal, Josh Heupel was actively involved. That's the guy that he wanted. Tennessee, it expressed some interest in a few different receivers, but Dante Thornton was number one for Josh Heupel, so I think that was important for Tennessee on that front, for him with Tennessee on that front, as he had plenty of suitors throughout his time in the portal. I mean, again, when you look at his measurables, you look at his overall speed, you're always looking to add those two things. And to get a combination of both, it's pretty evident to see why so many programs were trying to get involved with Dante Thornton. But for Tennessee, I think, after the Orange Bowl in Miami, they had an open locker room, and I was able to ask Kelsey Pope, you had Jalen Hyatt that you can point to, you had Cedric Tillman, but neither one of those guys are on the field for you here tonight, and you still managed to have Ramel Keaton have a big night, Squirrel White have a big night, Brew McCoy have a big night against a top 10 defense in Clemson. What does that impact do for you on the recruiting trail? And he said basically, it's pointing to a product now versus a vision. And I think that's something for Tennessee that you see with a transfer like Dante Thornton, and then going forward into 2024, jump forward 2 weeks, your first junior day of, the 2024 cycle, you have Mike Matthews and Ron Wingo both on campus, two guys that, have a case to be the top receiver prospect in the class. So, I think Kelsey Pope nailed that on the head that night. It is about being able to point to a product now versus a vision.
It really is, no doubt about it, and they are definitely establishing themselves as a force, and certainly looking to stack seasons now. I thought they overachieved as a staff in the first year, and then certainly took a quantum leap to 11-2 in year 2, no question about it. Before I let you go, though, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, what are your thoughts right now on Rick Barnes and Tennessee basketball? They are ranked in the top 2 in the country right now. They've moved up from 4 to 2. After Alabama slipped up against OU, they got a big win over Texas in Thompson Bowling Arena on Saturday. Down the road in a week and a half, 2 weeks, could have a huge game coming up in a couple weeks, February the 15th with Alabama. But I know you track, I'm sure, basketball recruiting as well. But things are looking very strong for Tennessee basketball right now.
Yeah, and they have a chance to close strong. When the shots are falling for this Tennessee team, they're tough. They're long, they're athletic, and they're typical Rick Barnes is defensively sound as you would expect. They smother you defensively, but still some challenges ahead for Tennessee. But after slipping up to Kentucky and having a very uncharacteristic loss, they've bounced back with 4 straight, including an impressive win over Texas. You still got a strong schedule to close out with Alabama, Auburn twice, and Kentucky. But they have a chance if they can continue winning, continue playing. They have a chance to go into the tournament with the number 1 seed. So it's exciting time for Tennessee basketball. The recruits were this past Junior Day weekend for Texas were just so impressed with the atmosphere. Thompson Bowling Arena is a sellout every night right now. So it's pretty remarkable to see Rick Barnes stack another team up like this, because I think there was some uncertainty coming into the season. What would this team look like? There was some veteran experience, but how would they, move forward? And they've answered the call so far.
They certainly have. Well, you answered the call yet again. We appreciate you on this signing day, though it's anticlimactic, for joining us and talking some Tennessee football and hoops. But let everybody now connect with you at your new place at VolQuest and On3, and tell them how to follow your work, my friend.
Yeah, you can find us at VolQuest.com, at VolQuest on all social media. Come join us. Come join the community. It's a great community, and Drew, as always, I thank you.
Thank you, Matt. We appreciate it. Matt Ray, VolQuest.com, now part of On3 Sports, the fastest rising really in the United States. Matt, a part of that, part with Brent Hubbs and his great staff over there that have been such a fixture in covering Tennessee for so many years. Now Matt, their lead recruiting analyst, great source for Tennessee, and we appreciate him for joining us. When we come back, we're going to wrap up this Wednesday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared.
The Blitz has been called.
What's better than Valley Equipment Rental? 2 Valley Equipment Rentals, and that's just what we have now. The original on the South Memorial Parkway between Drake and Airport Road, and their second location on North Memorial Parkway just north of Winchester Road. Valley Equipment is locally owned and has more skid steers, excavators, and lifts than anyone in the area, plus all the small tools that you need to get the job done like a pro. And if you are a pro, you need to check out the new North location now, because Valley Equipment has what you need. Learn more at valleyequipmentrents.com.
I'm attorney Gary Lackey. You'll hear people say we're like a family, but here at the Lackey Law Firm, that's really true, not just a saying.
I'm Justin Lackey. With my father and my sister, we have a special connection to each other.
I'm Jennifer Lackey. At the Lackey Law Firm, when we take on your case, you become part of our family. You really do.
And we'll always do whatever it takes to get everything you deserve.
If you're injured, you worry about getting well, not about paperwork or insurance companies or figuring out how to get to your lawyer's office. I'll come to you.
We worry about your case so you don't have to.
When you've been injured, we know that your case is probably the biggest thing going on in your life. More important than almost anything else.
And it's important to us too, for one simple reason. Family takes care of each other, and at the Lackey Law Firm, we'll take care of you.
The Lackey Law Firm. The Lackey Law Family. 1-800-4RIGHTS.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports, and it's brought to you by Conecuh Sausage, a true Southern flavor since 1947, and the official smoked sausage of the Crimson Tide. Visit online at ConecuhSausage.com. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Alabama women's basketball guard Hannah Barber will join us this week on Thursday's Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, and she shared what's made her senior season so special.
Obviously, from a basketball perspective, to just continue to push our program forward, which is one of the reasons why I came to Alabama, like being in my home state and having the opportunity to push our program to places that it's been before, to kind of get it back there. That was super, super special to be a part of. And then from an academic standpoint, having the opportunity to get a master's, super, super grateful for that as well. So all in all, it's been better than I could have asked for.
I'll have more in a moment.
Favorite jeans, favorite shirt. Got Conecuh sausage and I'm firing it up. Yeah, everybody knows it's how I get my grill on. You can smell that flavor up and down the road. It's a little taste of heaven, and everybody knows That's how I get my grill on. Kanaka sausage. It's just a little taste of heaven.
Here's more from Hannah Barber.
Looking back, I think we've gotten a chance to kind of get a rhythm and understand what conference play feels like, because again, there were so many people on our team who hadn't had that experience before. So for them to come in January and compete the way that they have, it's really a testament to the kind of people that we have on our team to be able to step into that position and just continue to fight and continue to be resilient.
Crimson Tide Today is brought to you by Kaneka Sausage. Crimson Tide Today is a production of the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Last few minutes of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared, Rudy Armand. If you want to join us, you can, 256-576-4977 on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. But we appreciate Matt Ray so much. Big-time kudos for him coming on. He is a part of VolQuest, part of On3Sports.com. We talked some Tennessee football recruiting, talked a little hoops as well, as Rick Barnes' team is the number 2 team in America right now, breathing down Alabama's neck. Alabama ranked number 4, but Alabama 9-0 in the SEC after the whitewashing of Vanderbilt last night. The Vols only one game behind. Their only loss was at home to the Kentucky Wildcats several days ago. But they've had a very strong conference schedule so far and conference slate. They did get one of the rare wins, only one of the 3 in the SEC Big 12 Challenge over the Texas Longhorns, 82-71 inside of Thompson-Boling Arena. So they're a very good team. Alabama and Tennessee will only play once during the regular season. That will be on February the 15th at Tennessee in Knoxville, and that could very well be and go a long way toward deciding the SEC regular season champion in the conference. So it'll be a huge game. Alabama is going to have to play a very emotional game on the Saturday before that at Auburn in Neville Arena. You know how that rivalry is. That will be a raucous environment as the Auburn Tigers are still very much in the conference race themselves under Coach Bruce Pearl. If you heard the beginning of the show, LeBaron Philon is announcing his verbal commitment. He was not going to sign until November, so he will still be able to be recruited, but he is going to commit this Friday. We strongly believe the Auburn Tigers are in the driver's seat, so that would be a huge get for Bruce Pearl, Wesley Flanagan, and staff. I think Alabama is positioning themselves strongly with Chase McCarty of Westminster, who's in the junior class as well in 2024. Also, Alabama has begun to turn the heat up on Ty Davis, a very good guard over at Mountain Brook. Both Chase McCarty and Ty Davis were in the Huntsville City Classic this past year, and so if you are able to see that in December, you saw both of them play for their teams, and both of them have a chance to win state championships. Certainly, Westminster was very impressive. I had the chance to see them earlier this week as they played the number 2 team in 4A, West Morgan, on the road, 55-27, the final score there. 55-27, a huge 28-point win on the road, led by the 20 points of Chase McCarty, as Westminster was outstanding. We had Ronnie Stapler on Talking Ball to talk about that. Love his point guard, Eric Robinson. So underrated, such a great defender. Probably not a better defender at the guard position in the state of Alabama than the senior Eric Robinson, who I strongly believe has a chance to play some college basketball in his own right. He had 9 points and played lockdown defense on another college prospect, 4-year starter Carson Muse for the West Morgan Rebels. He held Carson to 11 points. Carson's a very good player, someone that's going to play on the college level in his own right. So a huge shout out to Westminster for their big win. And I know they lost 72-58 last night to break their, I believe it was 87-game winning streak to set the state record for all-time wins in a row. It was their first loss since December of 2020 as the Hoover Bucks and Crystal Johnson, the number 1 team in 7A, took down the number 1 in 6A, Hazel Green Lady Trojans. But still kudos to those young ladies at Hazel Green for what they've done and that winning streak. They broke Lauderdale County's record, and now they're going to try to break another record of Lauderdale County's, and this is the most important one. Tim Miller's squad trying to win a 6th straight state championship in 6A competition for the Hazel Green Lady Trojans, but we wanted to give them a shout out as well, as they are a prominent member of our community and have done great things. So we use this show as a platform to congratulate coaches and student athletes for what they've accomplished and we're certainly doing that today as we are wrapping up the last couple of minutes of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. But again, we appreciate you for joining us. Don't forget, later today, the Bandy Man, Bailey Lowry, Captain Cool, John Abraham on the afternoon Blitz from 2 to 4. Stay warm out there. I know it's wet and cold, but we'll be with you tomorrow on Thursday from 9 to 10 a.m. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. I'm D-Squared, Rudy Armand. I hope you enjoyed the Recruiting Blitz and have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Win. Does Oklahoma have their first, or does Alabama have their fourth? And for the record, Hurts got a degree from Alabama, not Oklahoma.
Listen for Tom Abraham throughout the day.